Thank you. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. We have, please introduce yourselves.
Kwame Barty, Wareham Conservation.
Denise Schultz.
Mike Mercier.
Sandy Slavin.
Nicole Accardo.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Before we start, we have no minutes. I just wanted to let everybody know that we will be continuing John Boone for the 18 Green Street because they don't have a butter cards. We will have open the hearing, but we will not be able to vote on it because the butters were not notified. We're also continuing Scott Green at 17 Murphy Street until September 7th, Paula Hamilton until September 21st, Wareham MA3 LLC, Faring Hill, until September 7th, and Richard Grady until September 7th. If there's anybody here for those hearings, we're not going to be having any discussion of them other than the John Boone one as an opening for to be continued. So please, we have no minutes. By the way, will you please speak to Mr. Buckland on this? We are now late with the early July meetings. They're beyond the statute. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Notice of public hearing pursuant of the provisions of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multicultural Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday, August 17th, 2022 at 6:30. On the notice of intent for Edwin R. Harris, Jr., Bracken Engineering, 49 Heron Pond Road, Buzzards Bay, Mass. 02532, to fill, integrate, and stabilize fill located on Assessors Map 109A, lots 4, 8A, 9B, and 10 and 135, 2530 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this particular project? Come forward and identify yourselves, please.
Good evening. My name is Robert DeWar, here with Bracken Engineering on behalf of Ed Harris, who I have with me as well here tonight. I do have some additional plans at the request of Dave.
Could you tell me how to spell your last name? Thank you.
I'm done this one.
Nicole will like one.
Thank you.
This is an old one, correct? It's the same plan?
Same plan.
Oh. Oh.
Thank you.
Here's
Thank
the
you.
folded one. All right, Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
You.
Okay, so the project site is at 2530 Cranberry Highway, and this is an after the fact. What's that? Looks like it is.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Sorry. The site is at 2530 Cranberry Highway, and this is an after-the-fact filing for site work and placing fill in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland at this site. A large quantity of fill has been placed in the buffer zone to the wetland to raise the grade of the property by as much as 10 feet in some areas. The fill was brought in to flatten the sloping site to create a more level area. The plan proposes to create a more gradual slope on the filled area down to the natural grade. Currently, there's a very steep face of the filled material that goes down to the natural grade. The fill area is to be regraded to a 3-to-1 slope, so material will be removed to cause that slope to be less steep, back to a 3-to-1 slope, and then stabilizing by planting the slope according to the detail on the project plan with plantings and erosion control blanket where needed. Also, a 6-foot diameter dry well is proposed to handle runoff from the graded area. Any excess material from the project would be removed from the site or stockpiled outside the buffer zone to the wetland. Erosion control would be installed at the toe of the slope to contain the work area. We did receive a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added condition that the slope be stabilized according to the approved plan and the plantings stated, and that the plantings be monitored to ensure survivability, and also that the dry well be installed as shown on the plan.
Thank you, Robert. Anything to add?
No, I think Dave covered most of the bases. We're here just to try to remedy, what was inadvertently done unknowingly without the permit, and we're just trying to rectify that as well as improve the site conditions. The only other thing I think I would add that I think maybe Dave missed was that along with that dry well, we do have a berm at the top of that to eliminate any, runoff coming down that slope as well, so.
Thank you. Questions, Kwame?
No, I went to the site today, and actually, there's a lot of rock and other debris and material, so it'll be nice to, guys clean that up. I didn't even see the well, but maybe I stepped on it, no?
Yeah, I don't know. We must have missed it.
Well, it's not installed yet.
Yeah.
That's part of what's proposed.
Oh, okay. When they said dry well, I thought it was,
No, so he had started filling and was issued a stop work enforcement because he was filling within the buffer zone. So we're here for approval for that as well as the additional work shown on the plan.
Denise, questions?
There's a lot of trash, tires, there's some orange and white buckets back there. I don't know what in the world is in them with lids on them. What is in those and where are they going?
Those were just waste from the yard that I had just in the yard. So back where that little indent is in the back corner, I used to have some vehicles that I had, and upon Dave coming out back in October, I have gotten rid of every one of them except for one vehicle right now.
There's no hazardous waste in those canisters that are back there? And what is your plans for the tires and the trash and the wheelbarrows?
I'll be getting rid of those.
All that is going to be taken out
Yes,
and disposed of properly?
correct.
Okay, that was all my questions.
Thank you.
Michael?
Okay. I noticed seems to be a pretty big property line on the map. And there's some construction equipment on here. And there's also seems to be a construction company off this site. Does this construction company own that construction equipment, or what's?
So the construction equipment is actually ferry equipment next door. There's 3 large excavators that were put on the property within the last week. Those have been rented by me to make sure that I can do this in a timely fashion.
Okay, so construction work has not begun yet?
Correct. It is not. We just dropped the equipment to make sure that we could get this done. He has a long lead time for the 3 larger excavators, so I wanted to make sure that if this does get approved, that way I can get it done as soon as possible.
All right, thank you.
Nicole, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
I have none. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Please come forward and identify yourself. Can you give Mr. Manise a chance at the mic? Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Jim Manise, and I own the property at 2526 and 2524 Cranberry Highway, which abuts this property. If he wants to turn that into a yard, I have no problem, but it has been used for continuous storage of equipment, from ferry equipment, to perform service on the equipment there. There's trailers parked there. There's attachments on the property, boats on the property that don't belong to the proponent. So when I saw that, I guess it was on Section C, number 7, it said for residential use. Oh, well and good, otherwise you have to do DEP filings for drains and everything else. If he wants to continue as a construction or salvage business, or construction storage, then I would suggest that he follows the process and gets the engineering done appropriate for that.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you if you could comment just to our wetland bylaws. Your other issue is with
Well, that-
another department and board. Okay, thank you.
I'm just saying on section C7, it says it's for residential use. I'm stating that it is not, as demonstrated, previous and continuing. And so therefore it would be a different filing through your filing process of the DEP paperwork. I believe it would be checked off differently.
Yes, that's correct, but I don't believe the intention is to use it as a commercial yard. At least that's what it's been explained to me. Now, if they've been doing something of that nature that shouldn't have been happening, that's something that does need to be dealt with. So you're just going to have to realize that you can't store commercial vehicles or other types of things there, whether, you know, the neighbor asks you to or not. It's not zoned for that at this moment.
Understood.
Yeah.
So if all that gets taken care of and he wants to loam it and seed it, I have no problem. But if it wants to be used for storage and construction, then I think he has to follow suit and file appropriately.
No, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Sure, Mike McVeigh, AD Makepeace Company.
I'm going to ask you to repeat in front of the mic so they could hear you.
My name is Michael McVeigh for AD Makepeace.
Thank you.
Yep. This is a procedural question. Are we all using the same NOI that was submitted on July 25 that has the abutters list of 7 abutters?
We will look.
The reason I'm asking, and I apologize if I'm wrong here, but by the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, all the abutters within 100 feet of the property line of the land where the activity is proposed should be considered an abutter, but the abutters that I see here are only abutters to his residential address. So I'd like a clarification on that, please.
Could you
The
spell your
abutter
last
list
name for
came-
me?
MCVEIGH.
The abutter list came from the assessors,
It did. Yep,
so we give them the address and they look in their database and come back with a list.
that is correct. It was requested by our office admin, Penny Pomeroy.
Dave?
Yeah, so the answer is that the 100-foot should be measured from the lot where the work is being proposed, not necessarily just the owner's
Okay.
residential address. So there could be potentially
Right.
abutters that aren't listed.
Because that lot, that 1035 lot, that's the largest lot, and that shares a property line with numerous other people who weren't abutted. They weren't, or they are abutters, they weren't contacted. So I would ask, you know, and if you can continue if you'd like, but I think that would make this more apt for appeal if you were to continue with the application. The locus that I see that was provided here, this one here with the 100-foot radius, that's, to me, that's wholly inadequate. If I'm understanding it correctly, I'm sorry if I'm not, this larger piece here, this is where the work's being done, right?
Right, yes, no, this,
So I would consider
Diagram
this
is-
defective.
right, it's not representing the abutters that should be notified completely. That is true. So then, with that, then I think the commission probably should continue to get the abutters properly notified.
Okay.
I have one more question if I could. Just, generally, are you gonna pave this?
Hop to me, ask
Sorry.
the question.
I apologize. Is the applicant going to leave the lot 1035 unpaved or paved?
Can you answer that?
The plan is to, once this is all settled, that there will be loom and grass put down.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To add, that is noted on the plan as well.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So we don't have the correct notifications?
It looks like not.
So that's the assessor department?
Well, I think it depends. If the assessor was asked to just give the abutters for that address, then they gave the proper,
Yes, I believe there was just a miscommunication between the abutters office and us as to the parcels. They only got the front parcel and not the rear, so we'll have to re-notify.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion?
So the process is that we continued until, do we,
to the next meeting so they can re-notify those who did not get notified, and then
and what address should they give the assessors for a butter list?
they should just reference the lot instead of an address. That way it will be adequately, done correctly.
That's correct. Although the assessor still has the parcels split as two, right, even though they are under joint ownership, so. All right, at that point, I think we need to request a continuance.
Okay, move to continue to the September 7th meeting.
I believe September 7th would give you a chance to get to the assessor's assessor's department tomorrow because they're closed on Friday, and get your information out and mailed, so they're here for September 7th hearing.
Well, yep.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a motion to continue until 9/7?
So moved.
I need a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Continue it until 9/7.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we start with the next one. I'll read the next one, yeah? Reading the next one in, but we're going to continue it again.
Okay, here is this paper. The next one, please.
Okay. Notice of public hearing pursuant of the provisions of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multicultural Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, August 17th, 2022, at 6:30. For the notice of intent for John Boone, INC, Safe Harbor Marina, Onset Bay, Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, 26 Union Street, Plymouth, Mass. 02360, to construct a bulkhead and pad and to install new boat racks located on Assessors Map 3, Lot 1014, 18 Green Street, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here to represent this project?
John Boone.
Tom Pazerski, Senior Project Manager for Merrill Engineers.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name?
Excuse
I
me?
need your name again.
Oh, sure. Tom Pazerski, that's
Ska-
Pozerski.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have some full-size plan sets.
Okay, that's,
They're updated.
were they up?
We're going to be continuing anyways.
Yes.
because of the abutters.
Yes, so, but Mr. Burchett will read to the project, and then you can comment on it. Okay, thank you.
These are some small-size ones.
Of the more current one?
Yes.
You want a small one?
Thank you.
Pass it around, please.
I rewalked this today. It's interesting.
I did this yesterday.
Yeah.
smaller size.
Yeah, thank you.
And pictures.
Do you want a small one?
Okay.
Okay, so the project is at Safe Harbor Marina in Onset, or Onset Bay Marina, as many may recognize it as, and the address is 18 Green Street. And the project involves the reconstruction of a bulkhead, which would be the coastal bank, and then also the reconstruction of a concrete pad and boat racks in the buffer zone to the coastal bank, land under the ocean, and also within a coastal flood zone. The existing concrete bulkhead, which is approximately 330 feet in length, is to be replaced with a steel sheet pile bulkhead. The existing concrete pad and boat racks inside the bulkhead would also be then replaced. The existing bulkhead would be removed in sections and replaced with the steel piles. Once in place, a new crushed stone base would be installed and the new concrete pad would be poured. New steel boat rack storage racks would be installed in the same general area as they currently exist. New stormwater structures would also be incorporated into the design. Comments at this point have not been received from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries. We did get a DEP file number, and as we've heard, we have the issue with the abutter notifications, so I would recommend the hearing be continued as stated to the next meeting so that the abutter notifications could be addressed and we could get comments from the other agencies.
Thank you. Would either of you like to add anything to that?
Sure. That's completely correct, and I did check with DMF, and they'll have something next week for us, the end of next week, for comment letter. The existing concrete bulkhead, I don't know if you've been out to the site, it's reached its life. The cap is cracked on it. They're starting to tilt towards the water. The old H-beams don't really have much strength anymore. The concrete's spalling, and it's starting to lean seaward. So we need to really get this thing replaced. The process is going to consist of removing the floats that are in that area, gangways. We will put the floating turbidity barrier out. We'll take the cap off, and then we can commence with a phased construction for replacement of the bulkhead itself. That typically will be done in sections, and we'll work that out with the contractor. But we're going to cut out the old concrete pads, remove the pressure behind the walls, then we'll take the walls out, and as we're going forth, we'll install the sheet piling, and then we'll work by installing the dead man, the whalers, the tiebacks, everything else. All that stuff will be below grade. The only thing coming up will be the sheet piles and the 2-foot steel cap. In the middle of the site, we're going to also take out the whale stops that are there. They're pretty darn inadequate. So we're going to be putting in some heavy-duty whale stops that will accommodate the largest forklift. Basically what they are is 3/4-inch heavy-duty galvanized steel plating that's bolted 12 inches into the concrete pad, and at the end of it, it's an H, just like that. Comes up about 13 inches up and 13 inches below, and it's completely bolted down. So the weight of the forklift holds that in place. Not only is it secured to the concrete with heavy-duty bolts, but the current one, if you hit it, you could go in the water. It's in that bad of shape. So, and they're aware of it. They're very good operators. The other thing we like to do was Dave and I visited the site the other day, and you can see the orange outline of the bulkhead itself. We had it married up with the edge of the existing building where you see the dark black line, and we pulled it in from the edge of the building 3 feet. We held that line that we talked about, Dave, which was the pile that's sitting there now, and we're coming in. When the project is done, we're going to have less impervious area. The challenges that we have is we've got an existing site coming down that we have to take care of drainage and not causing localized flooding, and then we have the mean high water that comes up at elevation 1.5, and the existing pad area is generally 4. So I'm very limited to the treatment measures that I can propose in here. So what we're proposing is we're going to put in a couple foot lift of nice clean stone, and in the middle we'll put in an infiltration trench with inlets to allow the water to come in and filter in that area there. So you're gonna have less runoff, and it's gonna be cleaner, because right now it goes into the catch basins, and they're all clogged up. There's nothing there. And we'll put it on a maintenance program, just like every 3 months, to check it, clean it out. And I think that's basically about it. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Right, I will ask. Kwame?
I think the interesting question is the current drainage that you have right now. Nobody knows where it goes to, and
Yeah, it's been there forever. It's all clogged up. So that's why we want to give as much infiltration volume as we possibly can on the upland side. All that old drainage is in that area is being taken out and removed. And as far as any outlets, we're not going to have any new outlets other than the jet filters, which are required to relieve the hydrostatic pressure that might get behind the wall. They're stainless steel small filters. They're about 10 feet off center. So if there is hydrostatic pressure, it allows the pressure out. And if the water tries to inundate, it closes. They're very common in the industry to be used now, and they work well. But no, it's a good point. There is no real treatment going on right now.
Denise?
My question was only dealing with the maintenance of the catch basin. You said it's going to be done every 3 months?
Excuse me?
The catch basin maintenance every
Yeah, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna call for these, I'll put together a report and a DEP certification checklist for redevelopment, and I will prescribe in the maintenance procedures for the infiltration system.
Thank you.
Michael?
Okay. So there's going to be no impact on shellfish, any impact on any, we got a DEP file number already on this,
Yep.
so we're clear on that?
Yep.
All right.
I mean, and the other thing, if there is a concern on the shellfish, we'll bring the harbor master down and take a look at it. I mean, working right on the edge, we're landside, most likely gonna be working everything landside, or if we do a barge, they're gonna pull it straight up, put it on the barge, and then they drive the new piles in.
And what time of year is this? What time of the year is this going to be done?
It's gonna be done off-season. If DMF may come back and give us time of year restrictions,
Right,
and if
we
they
haven't
do,
had
we'll
that
You
handle
haven't
it.
determined what time of the year it's going to be done, like during certain months?
Correct.
meaning?
Usually it's the winter time, especially if there's spawning habitat or shellfish concerns. DMF or Emma will tell us from DMF.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Nicole?
No questions, thank you.
You mentioned some work off of a barge.
Excuse, oh,
You mentioned some work off of a barge.
well,
Is it it's possible?
it's possible.
Then we can put a stipulation so many hours before or after high tide, so it doesn't bottom out.
I would absolutely do that. Highly recommend it.
Now, the question for you, off-season, just a question, what happens to the boats that are already on the racks?
They're gonna move them landward, they're gonna store them inside, and they have other off-site locations they can
I
put
was
them
going to
on.
say, that area is tight for storage.
Yep.
Of course, we had a boat on the rack, and we had the boat at the marina for years and years, and this space is wicked tight there. So now, as the boats are removed from the water, the boats in the rack tend not to be bottom painted, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So there's no washing off of barnacles or anything, because those boats tend not to be at moorings anyplace, so they don't have accumulation of critters.
That's correct.
Okay. I think that's a question. You talked about the stormwater and the drainage and stuff like that, which has always been a concern down there. Is there anybody in the audience like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
Other comment.
Sorry?
Just one other comment.
Oh, one, okay.
So at this stage, it's not particularly known if you're going to use a barge, or do you think you can accomplish it all by land, or you just got to wait and see?
Gotta wait and see and bid it. I don't know just yet.
It seems like it
here's the reason why
Yeah.
is, We can say we're gonna do everything land, when we've done borings in there, and when we're working in fill tide lands where all the marinas are, you know, we don't know what kind of mucky mess we're gonna encounter in there. So it's gonna be, even if it is a barge, there'll be a decent-sized land component. There has to be. You know, to clean it out, load that material on trucks, take it out. We'll probably end up using a heavy-duty woven geotextile fabric to help envelop and enclose things, especially when we put the clean stone in the hole.
But we should allow for a order of conditions regarding a barge if it has to be used.
Yeah, yes, please.
I saw no one in the audience wanting to comment, so we are going to continue until 9/7 for butter notifications. Someone wants to make that motion?
Motion to continue till 9/7?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you so much.
And don't forget
Thank
your,
you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
these plans.
He's just trying to flip it. They're not flipping together. Okay.
Okey-dokey. Continuances.
This is the bulkhead, okay.
Scott Green,
Okay.
17 Murphy Street, has asked for a continuance until September 7th.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, is continued until 9/7. I have a continuance of Paula Hamilton at 44 Agawam Beach until 9/21.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. I have a request for continuance for Wareham MA3 LLC. We are still waiting for the comments from the consulting engineer, Charles Rowley. We have not seen them yet, so, and they've requested a continuance so that we have a chance to look at them.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. We'll continue until 9/7. Boy, I'll probably be home before the weather delay on the Little League game is over with. Richard Grady at 67 Jefferson Shore Road has asked a request until September 7.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We're continued. Unless someone can tell me whether or not Middleborough came back from Tennessee. Last I heard, it was a 5-3 in the... Okay, never mind. I guess we're not Little League plans. He left his plans.
Okay. CRCs.
Okey dokey, we're on to enforcement orders.
There aren't any, are there?
Then we're on to certification of compliances. William Atwood, please come forward. Well, Mr. Pichette is pulling the paperwork. Please identify yourself for the record.
William Atwood.
Hi, Billy.
How you doing?
Okay.
Okay. So this is a request for a certificate of compliance for a project at this site, which is Lot 10A off of Cranberry Highway, which involved filling in a cranberry bog, an upland bog, which has been done and is completed. The only other issue that I noted when I was out there is also a section of one of the other cranberry bogs that's been filled in, a corner of it, to accommodate part of this racetrack that's there. That was not something that was permitted previously, so that's something that, in my opinion, has to be addressed. So I just want that to be known from the commission, and you can discuss how to handle that. Or hear comments from the owner as to what
Okay,
occurred there.
the certificate of compliance involves the cranberry bog to be filled in. That's a separate issue from what you're stating.
It is a separate issue, but anytime there's a violation on a site, which this is, then the commission doesn't have to issue the certificate of compliance until the violation gets addressed. So that's up to the commission as to how they want to do that.
Okay, the parcel that you're talking about, I explained it to you when you were there. It's a part of my cranberry bog, it's a top piece, it's an 8-acre bog, and there's a piece that came to a point, and the road went around it. The way it was, way before the track even got like it is, I couldn't get a tractor trailer around the corner the way it was. My sprinkler system is overloaded as it is, so this triangle piece, which was 5, 10 feet in, it just didn't grow anything. There was nothing there because my sprinklers wouldn't hit it. There wasn't even any vines there. I needed to get around the corner of that bog in order to pick my crop and get it out of there without, I couldn't go around the other way because there's a dike in the pond and the swamp, and it'd be a little too dangerous to do it. At the time when I did this, the laws in agriculture said that you could fill in 1/4 of an acre of cranberry bog per year if needed to be so, to square up cranberry bogs. That was in the agricultural laws back when I did this. It's probably 20 feet long by 5 feet wide that I did. But I didn't think I needed permission to do that because back then the agriculture, I don't know if it's still on the books, but agriculture back then for cranberry bogs you were able to square up your bogs to make them easier to and more effective to produce. That was a long time ago that I did that one, but the small piece of bog, I did fill it in. I got the okay from conservation to do it. I did fill it in. And then the track just kind of got bigger and bigger, and there were a lot of little kids coming to the place to ride their bike. I mean, 5, 10-year-old kids, and it wasn't really feasible for them to get out onto the other track with the bigger kids. It was kind of dangerous. So I took some of that dirt and I made them a little track right there, and that you saw the track that I put there for them, and they do little camps there and stuff for the little kids to ride their bikes, and that's all that was. So.
So,
To comment.
yeah, just a comment, squaring off a cranberry bog is still part of the regs. You can do that.
Yes.
The only thing to me is when I saw it, it looked like it was done for the purpose of accommodating the track. So if you're saying that
No,
was done
I
to
did it
square
'cause
off the bog or do whatever you needed to do prior to that, then I can't say otherwise because I don't know the timing of when it was actually done.
Yeah, it was done a long time ago, because like I say, I couldn't get a tractor trailer around the property to fill it, or a truck even. It was so tight with the point of land there.
Yeah, when I looked at some aerial photographs, it did kind of look kind of, as the track grew, it got done. That's how I saw it, looking from
Yeah.
historical aerial pictures. But it is part of the regs that you can square off cranberry bogs as an exempt activity, so that is true.
Okay.
Okay, questions? I'm going to ask Kwame.
No questions, thank you.
Denise?
You have they're not your children who use this track? You have other kids coming on the property using a track?
Yes. Yes.
A nice dirt track, very active dirt track.
Yes.
It was.
It was.
Yes.
Thank you.
Michael?
No questions.
Nicole?
No questions.
I have none. What would the commission like to do? Make a motion to certified compliance? Someone wants to make that motion or not? Issue a certification of compliance?
As long as The regulation still states that he can square off his bog. So then I would move that we issue the certificate of compliance.
Yeah, second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500. Paperwork, maybe. We'll sign it tonight.
Yeah, so probably Monday or Tuesday it would be available.
If there's any way possible, because this is regulating when I'm selling the property, and I've been doing this since April. So every time I get stalled with something, it costs me a lot of money, and I'm getting tired of it.
We'll start signing the paperwork now.
I was just hoping if you could, by any chance, have a piece of paper for me tomorrow, that would be awesome.
I hear you. I just would say it's not likely, only because I have other meetings scheduled for tomorrow, and I just can't guarantee you that I can do it, but I definitely can get it done Monday.
How about if he was to come by and get a copy of this? Would that help?
I
No,
don't-
can
well,
you pass
well,
it down there for signatures,
It's up to the
please?
lawyers. It's not even a requirement to have this technically to close. It's the lawyers that want the document.
Right.
But by law, you don't even need this to close on a property. So
But-
I'll try with a copy of that tomorrow, if you want.
Can you swing by and get a copy of it tomorrow?
I will not be in till about 11 because I have a meeting in the morning that I'm going straight to in Fairhaven. So
Okay. Noontime-ish tomorrow?
Sure.
You know where his office is, correct? Okay. Well, we at least will show him that we signed it.
Right, I think that'll help a lot.
You can watch the tape,
I
too.
appreciate it a lot, too.
They can watch the tape of the meeting also if they don't.
What's that?
They can watch the tape of the meeting if they don't
Okay.
quite believe you.
We could do that. All right, thank
All
you.
right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much, everyone.
Yep.
And I don't know how it will be.
Well, it was rain delayed because thunder showers 8 miles away or something like that, which means they took everybody off the field.
Off the field.
That happens. Next one. Jennifer and
next-
John Nolan?
Yes, the next project site is at 226 Blackmore Pond Road, and this was for the construction of a single-family home in the buffer zone to wetlands. That has been completed according to the order of conditions, so I would recommend the issuance of that certificate of compliance.
Someone say so moved.
So moved.
Moved.
So
Second.
moved.
I have a motion
I
and
thought
a
you had asked
second.
if there was anybody here.
I didn't see Mr. and Mrs. Nolan, so I figured, okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500, approved. So we're up to the filing fees here. Pass
Boy.
that down for approval.
This is gonna be great.
You guys did some major work on this.
We did.
Yeah,
You
let me
most
get
certainly
some,
did.
Yeah, nice work.
Where
Let me
would,
get- let me get Kwame and yourself the paper file.
Maybe it is.
I looked at it.
I just want
Now
to get
you
it in
have an
front of you.
official copy.
I just want to get it in front of you anyway.
Is this the same
Does
one?
everybody have a copy? No, he's got something different that he's giving
the
you.
one that was put on the
That's the additional
desk.
work that he
It's
did.
the same
So
one as you have.
this
Oh, but no, but it doesn't have the, after the
This,
filing
if you read
fees.
the top of it, is the proposal.
I got this
The
on,
other is additional
I
backup
had this in the
information.
email.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, I just, this was the one I sent you.
That's what we discussed 2 weeks ago, what Denise gave us, a couple.
Right.
Okay,
and
then you gave me this one with Fairhaven,
Oh,
but
you
then,
actually, you actually printed this out. Never mind, I'll take this back. It's the
Okay.
same one.
but then we got one in the mail that talked about the proposed fee schedule of Wareham,
Correct.
including after-the-fact filing, but the one I got on my desk this afternoon.
Does
on
not
co-
have that on it.
Huh?
doesn't have that on it. I corrected it.
Does not have on it.
I corrected it and resent it to you, and I just gave you a copy tonight with it on.
No,
Got it?
this one doesn't have after-the-fact filing.
Sandy. There was one sitting out right in front of you when you sat down, I
Yeah,
thought.
this one.
And that has after-the-fact filings on it.
But it has nothing amount, there's no amount in the column.
After-the-fact filing, all fees are doubled.
Off,
You'll see.
you're right, I
You'll
did not
see in a
see
minute.
that. Ditto, 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 ditto.
I know the print was little, but I couldn't get it all on one page
I was
if
so
I did
used
it
to what you
bigger.
sent Earlier.
All right, but still.
So what you're saying is that,
You're gonna
old,
see
wait a minute,
everything in a minute.
old,
Okay, and this was the one.
Times two.
That's,
Oh, no,
old.
oh,
gotta
Kwame,
Okay.
Kwame's got to sign it.
All right,
The one that says Concom fees proposal at the top of
Yep.
it, that has the proposed fee schedule, and then the section that says after the fact filings, all fees are doubled.
Okay.
That's the current one,
I got it.
okay?
It was, never
Oh,
mind.
it's tiny print, I know.
I expected
was the-
dollar amounts in the column.
No. Just, we can
All right.
add.
We got something different.
So talk to us about what this is. You're making some recommendations based on what our neighbors are doing?
Based on what the neighbors are doing and the demographics of Wareham itself.
Okay, summarize.
Go ahead, you want to
got?
get started?
Oh, yeah, correct. So, for example, you see the, our RDAs, for example, the existing single-family house, you have $50 for Wareham, and let me actually grab out the demographics here, I'm sorry. It's $50 here, so we're proposing that we bump that up to $75. No, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry. So we're proposing that we actually move that up just a little bit to $75, and after the fact filing fees, that all of our, again, if it, after the filing, there's a after the fact filing fee for that is doubled, and that would be for what? All of our, for what?
So Fairhaven
Hold on.
has 100.
Right, we had took all the areas, we looked at what they were charging. We felt that RDAs should remain lower than some of the other areas because the demographics of Wareham, we didn't want to outprice people from being able to do simple things to their homes.
So Carver and Bourne are at 75,
Correct.
and that's what you're recommending?
Right,
Is that
'cause
we increase it by $25 to $75?
Correct. We broke down the NOIs. Originally, it was $100 for every category. We felt that breaking it down by category per the WPA information that we gave you was fair to the construction companies versus the individual person doing something to their home.
Okay. So there'll be some place that identifies the various categories 1 through 6.
Correct. And we're using the WPA, is it WPA, is that the correct? Their breakdown of it, and you should have a copy of that. If not,
We're
I
on the
can-
notice of intent now, right? I'm sorry.
No,
I
big
didn't
time.
have all the
It's
data
okay,
in
you're
front of
all
me.
right.
That was.
You
that
gave
was
it to
my
us
fault.
2 weeks ago.
I did. It's in this material.
Correct. That was my fault there. I didn't have all the data in front of me there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're now on the notice of intent.
Right.
All right.
And how we're breaking that
Wait,
down.
I'm just going to go back. Our fees are lower than the state, so we are not exceeding the fees that the state collects for that type of component.
Well, the state does it per activity. We are not doing it per activity. We're doing a flat fee at that
Okay.
level.
That's what it
So we're
seemed
not
like.
exceeding what
Correct.
the state, okay.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure that got out there because we can't. Okay.
Right.
Very good. All right, next.
We seemed a little confused with what ANRAD was at the time. It didn't seem like a lot of the other towns had that category. I didn't see that in Fairhaven, Middleborough. I don't think that was listed there on Marion, Carver, or well, Rochester had it, but Mattapoisett didn't even have it either. And I don't think we had that in our
Let
proposal
Dave
either,
explain
right?
what it is.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so what that has to do with is a notice of resource area delineation. So if somebody is coming in with a large chunk of land and they want to get the wetland boundaries identified, they would submit an ANRAD.
Okay.
And then we would review that and issue what's called a notice of resource area delineation as the permit. So it would state that we've approved those wetland boundaries as requested. And you can also request to do some work at the same time as well under that application if you wanted to. So you're issuing essentially an order of conditions, but it's just going to be the formal way that you lock in wetland boundaries, so that way they're no longer going to be argued. They're going to be fixed and approved by the commission.
Okay.
So under the state fee structure, the fees are determined by the length of the boundary that you're approving. So, and they have a minimum and a maximum as well. So, you know, if you're approving a wetland line that's 100 feet long, the fee is going to be one amount. If it's 1,000 feet long, it's going to be a much different amount. And so that's what that is referring to. And so if you want to put in an additional fee for that, then that's fine. If you can make it a flat fee, however you would like to structure it.
Okay.
I think we just kept that the same for now. I don't know.
We didn't
how
know
we
if it
kept
would be reasonable to raise that to the $2 that some other towns had done, or just leave it where it was. I don't know how much effort and work you put into that. Does it constitute a higher fee than $1 per linear foot, in your opinion?
I didn't understand that. What did you say?
In your opinion,
Yeah,
I don't know the amount of work or time that you put into doing something like that.
okay.
It's only at $1 a linear foot at the moment. Do you feel that it constitutes, in reality, it could be reasonably raised to $2?
It could, yeah. I mean, it's really sort of a judgment call, because in terms of cost-wise, we're going to charge an additional fee anyway. It's just, what amount do you want to charge? Do you want
Okay.
it to be $1 or $2? I think
it's been-
$1 makes sense.
Okay.
So,
And we don't get many of them.
right.
I think I've had
no
2
idea.
in 15 years.
Okay.
right,
But it's
so-
also been $1 for 15 years, so I didn't know if you wanted to raise it to $2 or just leave it where
Because
it was.
more than likely, once that line is defined, they'll come back to us with a
Okay.
full-blown plan for that plot.
Okay.
They just want to make sure is where's the wetlands, so they can say whether or not they can build on it or something like
So
that.
you feel comfortable leaving it at
I
$1?
do. It's not a frequent
right.
activity.
That's not a
Right,
problem.
Dave?
It's not that frequent, or it hasn't been of late, only because we haven't had a lot of, new developments, though we have seen these filed for the solar projects. So when these are filed, we have been seeing these ANRADs.
I just
Yeah.
don't remember them.
Yeah.
I just remember a couple off the,
Well, we could leave it as is and then start to review these fees on a more regular basis also.
Yeah, and as we're talking right now, we're still sort of kicking it around. If we want to, reevaluate before this goes to a formal public hearing for a vote, then obviously we can still make a change before then.
Okay.
All right. Okay, the determination of applicability we kind of covered above already.
If I could just jump back to that for a moment.
All right.
You've got 2 separate lines for that, and they're all the same numbers. So basically, if you just said RDAs and left it at that, I think you could just sort of,
Oh,
that
okay,
up.
because that's
Okay.
an error.
All right,
oh.
so,
It's an error. It's
okay.
the COCs for commercial and non-residential is at 100.
No, I'm talking
So
about up
line-
at RDAs, at
line
the top of the
13,
page.
determination of applicability.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
Oh,
so
no,
get
I'm-
rid of that?
I'm talking about lines 2 and 3 and 4, up at the top of the list. In other words, you don't need to separate the categories, just put one line because they're all the same numbers. So basically, for RDAs at the top, you
Well, I
don't-
guess we left it that way because we wanted to know if that was reasonable to the people on the council or the commission to leave existing single-family homes separate and charge more for all others.
okay,
If you can
then,
take it out, then yes, but if,
then I would say, again, for the reasons you stated previously, RDAs should kind of just be not super expensive applications, you know?
so then we get rid of line 4 and get rid of existing single-family home, just say
And
RDA.
That's my suggestion. What the commission wants to do, obviously, you can change that.
fine.
Yeah.
It's okay, Dave.
Does
We
that
want your
also
input.
include line 13?
So under 13
So I was-
Determination of applicability.
So then 13 then,
is basically the
All right.
same thing still. Yeah, that's the
okay,
same exact thing.
that's what I thought.
So
Yeah.
take
That's what I
13
thought
out?
then. 13 was basically an error and the same as above.
Okay, so 13
That's
comes
what I
out?
thought in our conversation.
Okay.
And 14, COCs, okay, here we go. When discussing COC, which was certificate of compliance. let
We
me
felt
see
that we
here.
should
Was
break
that-
apart the residential and commercial. And then based on talking to you, you said that based on the number of years, it didn't make any more work for you, whether it was 1 year out or 10 years out. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So I don't think there needs to be any changes relative to the number of years out or any of that. Just bumping up the fees as you have for the residential and the commercial, to me, makes sense.
All right, so we can get rid of lines 16, 17, and 18.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yes.
16, 17, and 18,
Come out.
right.
Okay, amended order of conditions. We felt that we should break again apart the residential versus commercial for that.
Yep, no, I think that makes sense.
Extension requests the same thing. We kept the single-family homes the same, but we raised all others.
Because if it's not a single family, more than likely it's a commercial or development of some kind.
Correct, and
Yeah,
we felt
okay.
that they should be paying more than the single-family people
Because
are.
if you look at some of the other towns, for example, like Fairhaven, their residential, they charge $75, but they really charge high for commercial at $200. Middleborough's a little bit lower at commercial for $75.
I think
And-
on that, I would agree with the commercial, but where it just says all others, then I think maybe we might want to consider that, because sometimes we have nonprofits and conservation groups who have orders of conditions, and they want to, you know, they don't have the big budgets to.
Okay, so,
So if we said instead of all others, just say commercial.
and get rid of, have extension requests without the single-family after it, and then put extension requests commercial as a separate.
Yes, to me, that would be
Okay.
more appropriate.
And that would include subdivisions.
Yes, because that's commercial.
Okay. We weren't sure how much we get charged to put something in the newspaper, and how many
So-
papers you actually put it into.
Yeah, so I looked at that when you sent it over. The legal ad fees are dictated by the paper, so we don't control that in any way, and we typically just collect whatever the cost for the ad is. So,
It seems the other towns do not.
yeah, so I was looking
So-
at that and thinking, I don't know how we would deal with
I-
that, because we'd have to like have two separate checks, and
Right.
I don't know.
Can you justify that? I can't see charging somebody more than what we're actually, I know you're putting the effort into it to do it.
Yeah, I would say if you have a concern about that element of it, then just put the fee for the application that much higher based on, you know what I'm saying? So if you wanted a $25 increase for whatever the cost of the legal ad work is, then just add it into whether it's an RDA or a notice and just tack it on that side, you know what I mean?
Because the cost of the fee for the RDA or the NOI includes his paperwork to put the ad in.
Okay, so then
So
can
I
we
would get rid of line
get
22.
rid of line 22 altogether? Because originally, we charged now for it, don't
We
we?
we do charge less than what, Middleborough, Fairhaven, and what did you explain in our meeting, how the other towns do it? For the,
Oh, they charge per
advertisements,
paper.
maintenance?
Like if, we now charge, what, $50 to
Because
put it in the
that's-
Wareham Week?
Because that's what their legal ad fee is, yes.
Correct. The other towns charge per newspaper. We only put it into one newspaper? Okay. But you're now reducing and getting rid of the legal ad fee.
No, in other words, we're not getting rid of what we already charge, we're getting rid of the change in the cost that you put in.
Oh, okay, so this is okay. So instead of $75 per paper, it would be $50.
So that's what the Wareham Week charges then?
Correct.
Yeah, but
So we
if they
can't-
go up to 60, then
We
our
charge
fees are out of
60.
line.
Okay, so
Oh,
suppose
so
we
we can't
put,
change that.
Well, see, that should just be, again, based on whatever the cost of the paper says that their ads are. You know, we've,
okay.
So
And
we have no
we
control over
can-
that.
But
have
we
no-
can state that, the cost,
yes.
okay. Cost per paper,
Cost for ad.
per ad, okay. Per ad, okay, all right.
Therefore, it goes up, we're covered.
Okay. Wetland delineation confirmation single-family house lot. A lot of the other towns charge when they go out for the first visit is free, but then if they have to go out additional times, they start to charge. That seemed reasonable to me to the extent that if we go out, Dave goes out, and they still haven't staked the blasted thing, and he's got to go back again, they should be charged for that. I think if we have to go back multiple times, first time is a give. We go out, we look, we do what we need to do. If we have to go out again, then I really believe that they should be charged for
Then
it.
23 and 24 really just should say wetland delineation, and then your two components of first free, then 50, then 100, because I don't think 24 looks like a
24 is a duplication of
Yeah.
23.
If we remove the word single-family house lot from 23 and have the definition in the fee as to what it is for 50 residential and 100 commercial,
Okay,
I think that takes care of both of them.
all right, so get rid of single-family house and get rid of line 24.
So,
And if you feel that you want to waive it for whatever reason, I think he should have the ability to do that.
yeah, so did want to kind of comment on some of these sections, because I don't know how other offices are set up, how they are basing their fees, how their salaries are being, let's say, paid for, if they're from fees or not, or if they have additional staff, which is the big deal. So for me, where I'm pretty much on my
Oh,
own,
yes.
to be trying to process additional checks, and did I get a check from this guy? If I show up to the site, he didn't bring his check, now I have to go back again. So I would prefer that we didn't even have that, to be honest with you. The same thing with this pre-site visit, because it's just going to be sort of a bookkeeping nightmare for me to deal with it. So again, what I would prefer, if you feel like you want to see monies collected for something like that, then on the front end where you have a fee for a notice of intent or an RDA, just make those numbers bigger and just, you
So
see
get
what I'm
rid of-
saying? So
Get
it-
rid of 23 altogether.
But then he's saying to raise another fee instead.
Right, if
But
you feel like,
I thought we were covered when we said that it could be waived. I think you should have the ability that if somebody is not doing what they
It's
should be
digging
doing.
you around.
I mean, in terms of if they're derelict, we can say,
Right.
okay,
If
Um,
it's something that you feel doesn't constitute an additional fee, then you just waive it and you don't worry about it. But if somebody's giving you a hard time, you should have something to be able to back up your time and effort.
Okay, I get that. I see what you're saying. I was just thinking of it more like every
Yeah.
single
No.
project could become a nightmare for
No,
me to try
it's, that fee is completely
to
in your,
collect checks and
your
process checks
hands.
and,
if somebody's giving, is unreasonable in what they're doing, then they should be charged,
okay, I got you.
okay?
And then I was
I had
gonna.
no idea what these other things were. They were listed on some of the other towns.
Yeah, I did look at some of these other things. So some of these things like maps and plans and stuff, to me, are almost part of what would be an information request. So in other words, if somebody wanted something of that nature, they could just submit an information request and we would have to provide it for them.
And what is the fee for that?
Whatever the cost of the copying.
It goes to the clerk.
is. It goes to the clerk, and then whatever the charges to make the copies and the time for somebody to do it ends up
It's up to
becoming the
them.
fee.
And that goes through the clerk, so we don't have to worry about any of those.
If it gets submitted that way, which is the way I would say that something like this should happen, because again, I'm not sure if we would be justified, because if let's say we put in some fee structure where we charge $30 for a plan, well, then they just go over to the clerk and put in an information request, and we have to give it to them for whatever that normal charge is. So they just
Yeah.
bypass the whole thing.
So do you want those things listed with it stating information requests through the clerk's office?
I wouldn't even
or
list them.
just forget
Yeah, I
it?
would just not even
All
have
right,
them
take
on
all of
there.
those out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then this
25 through 30.
Yeah, this last thing of, what was this deeds registration? Because we don't really do anything with that, so I wasn't sure what that was intended for. Like, we
It was
don't,
just listed on one of the other towns, and we thought we should put it in there to see if there was anything that we needed to discuss.
okay.
Is it anything we need to discuss?
I would just,
Get rid of that
get rid
also.
of that, yeah,
Okay.
because I don't know what these other towns are particularly doing with that.
Okay, number 31, we do add restoration in our enforcement orders, and we state what that restoration should be. I think we need to start including a specific number of years, and it's come to my attention that some boards actually collect performance bonds for that. I don't know what that entails, and
That tends to be for roads
Bigger
and, you know,
projects, yeah. Large-scale projects typically. But as far as restoration goes, you certainly can put in what you stated, that there needs to be some viability for X number of years, so that way you know that it's going to be addressed. Now, if it was some huge project that is going to be acres to restore, and it was going to cost huge money, then you could
sorry.
then you could then request a performance bond or some other
so we have that
financial insurance.
we have that capability already to do that or not?
We can put it in the order of conditions. That the
Yeah.
plant material is
Okay.
must exist for a year or 2 years, and if they,
I think longer than a year.
well, it's one of the, we could put something in a
Yeah.
restoration in the order of conditions that said the planting is to be done this time of the year, it is to be reviewed every 6 months or replaced up to whatever you want, but
In
if it
terms-
doesn't live, replace it.
Yeah, and in terms of what's stated in the Wetlands Act, if somebody's doing a replication area, for example, it specifically says 75% of the plants that have been planted have to be viable after 2 growing seasons.
Okay.
So that's just sort of what's in the Wetlands Act. So you could go by that, or you could modify it.
Well, I know that one course that I took, that 102 course, you guys had taken it, has taken it also. They said that there should be a 2-to-1 ratio for
That-
one of the things.
Yeah, that had to do with if somebody's going to fill
versus-
wetlands and then do a replication area.
Replication area,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's a little bit different.
That's different.
Because we might have situations where just the buffer zone gets altered, and we want them to restore part of the buffer zone, but it's not actually a wetland. but we still want the plants to be
All right.
alive after.
And I added that in here just for a discussion, because I think that we need to be aware of it more as a commission, and that we need to really start stating these things as a commission, so that they're in the condition of orders, and when we go back a year later and there's no plants left, we've got something to fall back on.
Yeah, so I think two things. I think it's good to put conditions in the order that are more specific and say you want this, you want that, and the other thing. And then the other thing you always have is you wouldn't issue the certificate of compliance if they didn't have it
Correct,
done
right,
correctly.
right.
So that's your other fallback.
Fallback, okay.
And that becomes hard if the certification of compliance happens outside of 5 years or 3 years. You don't know what did or did not die within
Well, that's my
2
question
years.
too. We sign things here at the meeting. How and where are the statements that we've made as the conditions? Where are they in the reports? I mean, we sign a paper that seems to be a generic paper.
Right, so the order of conditions gets generated, and those conditions are in that order. So if you say you want X, Y, and Z conditions at the meeting, then those conditions go in the order.
The
Okay.
order conditions, what, 10 pages or 12 pages long?
Yeah, and the reason I don't prepare that in its entirety is because I don't know what conditions you're gonna want.
Correct.
So therefore.
So then I guess my question is, should we be signing something right here at a meeting if we don't see the conditions attached to it? Like, we check minutes and we read the minutes and make sure that they're correct. Should we be reading your
Well, I'm putting in the
conditions.
conditions that you state that you want. At the
Right.
time of the meeting, you vote, and those conditions are what goes in the order. If, if you are saying you would want to see conditions, I think on certain specific projects, it might make sense if there's a super complicated project and you want to see a draft order of conditions, that's fine.
Okay.
But on every general project, it would be, again, difficult to
And
get you a draft and
sometimes it
then.
can take 2 to 3 weeks until it's completed because
Right.
complexity of whatever's on his plate. I mean, it's nothing that's done in one day.
Right.
Plus you have the, 21 days wait period?
Well, the order of, if you vote to approve the project, then the order of conditions is supposed to get issued within 21 days of that approval
Okay.
date.
So then what actually, when we sign whatever paper that we're signing, what actually are we saying when we sign it?
You're saying that you're approving the motion or the order of conditions that you just voted on. So when you say, motion to approve this project with the standard order of conditions and this condition and that condition, that's what you're signing?
That's what I'm signing?
Yes.
Okay,
Do you have a copy of the standard order of conditions?
yes.
Okay, so that's where we're starting with, and then whatever you guys add after that also goes in there.
Put that onto a separate piece of paper and attach that to the whole,
I just, the standard order is a Word document, so I just go into the Word document and add the extra conditions that you
Right.
say you
So
want.
it goes from number 17, then 18, 19, or 20 conditions
okay,
on top
Yeah.
of the standard ones.
okay.
Right.
All right. That was just one of my questions.
Yeah, but on a very complicated project, it does make sense to, if you know there's gonna be like 25 or 30 conditions, then it makes sense to see a draft and make sure it's everything that
we
you
got
want.
everything that we wanted in it.
Yeah, we've done that before, actually. Maybe
Okay.
not when you were on the commission, but
I've only been here a year.
we have done that before.
Let's hope we don't run into too many of those.
Yeah.
All right, that was our proposal.
Then
That was it.
make the adjustments and bring them back to us, and then what's the next step? Public hearings?
The next step is to make something official, we do have to hold a public hearing,
Okay,
okay? And advertise it just like any other public hearing, and then
So
let
we can
people-
review it on the 7th and then put an ad in the paper for the 21st for a public hearing.
I
Or
just saw
or-
something in the paper that the buildings people raised their fees and they had to go through the selectmen. Do we
Well,
have to do
that's
that?
No.
Well, see, it's different because we have, our wetland bylaw gives us the authority just to do this
On our
without
own, okay.
other approval, as long as we hold a public hearing.
Okay,
In other words, we can't just randomly do it. We have to have the public hearing, get input, and then make decisions based on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A little bit more flexibility than planning.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when I read that in the paper. I thought, oh, we're supposed to have another step in here. So, I'll correct this.
Okay.
Thank you for
And
your-
whether or not you,
You did a good job. No, you did a good job. Thank you.
then you can consider whether you want to have the public hearing
See
during
that.
a regular meeting or on a separate night, because you know how some of our agendas can go. So, you know, you
Yeah.
can decide how you want to handle that, because it doesn't have to be on the same night as a meeting, a regular meeting.
Okay.
But that's up to you.
Well, we can talk about that after we have everything, the proposal together, or what do you want to do?
Yeah,
What do you want
I
to
think
do?
that makes sense.
put the proposal together
Okay.
and then let us vote on it.
And then,
Then bring it
I'd
to
like
the
Carol
public.
to get to see it too.
True.
Yeah, and then once we vote on it, we will then ask for public input, and then it will become submitted for implementation,
Okay. Nice.
because we could be getting changes from the public hearing.
Okay.
Well done, kids.
Yep. Good
Thank
A lot
you.
of work.
You're welcome.
job.
But it's something, you're right, we should be reviewing this every 2 years.
I think so too. It's been, what, 15 years since these fees have been looked over? It's a little-
Mr. Westgate, maybe, that long ago.
Yeah, that's a while.
Anything else?
We move to close?
Um,
Or what else do we have to do?
Jessica's not available tonight, that's why she's not here, so I will not, we won't discuss the appointment until she's here to say yay or nay to it.
Okay.
So we'll continue that. I don't think there's anything else here under other business that you want to cover tonight. I think I covered it, so please. It's 7:45, say something.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, no. Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes,
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. Thank you.
Michael.
Jim, did we